Hello, professional women. I hope you all are doing fantastically well today. I have a topic that I was asked to talk more about, and that is how to manage or how to diffuse difficult situations. Now, if you are a emerging leader or an established executive, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to find some value in this video because these are the situations that you will encounter as a professional woman, especially if you are managing others, leading teams. These situations are just going to come up, ladies. And so, what I'm going to share with you today is a couple of tips for you to keep in mind when these situations come up, because guess what? They will, and provide you with some insights. So you definitely want to stay tuned to the end so you get a full grasp of how you can diffuse a difficult situation because when they come up, it can be very, very stressful and very, very challenging. But in this video, you're going to learn some tips to help you be able to master diffusing those difficult situations. Now, if you are new to me, my name is Dr. Jacinta Lamontai. I am the CEO and founder of Excite Excellence Incorporated. I specialize in helping professional women who are emerging leaders, established executives, elevate their communication skills, and become confident and speak with authority at work or in their professional setting. Now, I'm going to share with you some insights. Now, I'm just going to go into the overview. If you want me to talk more about this topic in a masterclass setting or something like that, put it in the comments below so I will know and I will put some things together for you. But when you have a difficult situation, sometimes you are going to have a difficult situation, depending if you're going to be having a conversation with somebody and it might be a bit more challenging, or sometimes you may just be completely blindsided and you have no idea that you're about to have a difficult situation. So the first thing that I would recommend to do, what's actually helped me diffuse difficult situations, is to first get some data. You want to know and gather as much information as possible. Specifically, what's going on? What is the situation? What is the problem? That's really the first thing. I personally, whenever I deal with more complex situations that happen in a professional setting, that is really my first go-to is I need data. I literally will tell whoever I'm communicating with, I need data. I need to know what's going on. So at least I can kind of put things together in my head and figure out what is going to be the best course of action. Now, if you have a scenario where this is a planned conversation or something happened between your coworkers or associates or something like that, and there's an issue, then think about who it is that you're communicating with. How do they typically communicate? How do they receive information? How do they respond when you talk to them? There's a lot of things that you're going to need to think about when you're preparing for a difficult situation that might actually come up. Now, when you have a planned conversation that you're having and you're thinking that's going to be a difficult situation, I'm going to share with you my next tip that will help you to manage and diffuse this situation. So, after you've collected your data and you know who you're talking to, you know what's going on, then my next tip for you would be to set the tone. What do I mean by set the tone of a conversation? This is the opportunity for you to show off your leadership abilities, show off the executive communication skills that you are learning from following me on my platforms and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And then it's a great opportunity for you to just establish and develop your executive presence. This is really important when you are diffusing difficult situations, because when it's a difficult situation, there is some form of chaos that's going on. And so you as the professional woman are there to bring everything, calm everyone down, and manage the situation in a way that is going to be beneficial and productive for everyone. So what do I mean specifically? A statement that you can use if you know it's a difficult situation going on to set the tone is to start off with this. You could say, I understand there is a situation that happened, and I want to learn more information about that so we can work together to come up with a solution that will allow us to move forward in a positive way. This helps to set that tone. Basically, you're saying that I'm here, I'm leading this conversation, and I want to make sure this comes up as a positive discussion. Now, what I see a lot of leaders do that have not really been trained on how to communicate like an executive is that they go into crisis mode themselves. So, an example of this that I would not recommend for you to do would be to say, what's going on? What happened here? Who did this? I see a lot of people do that. A lot of leaders do that. And that's not the way to ensure that you have a productive conversation in a difficult situation. Remember, the title of this is to diffuse a difficult situation, not to put gas on fire, because a lot of times leaders just don't do that. They're not, some leaders are just not trying to do that. So I want to help you and make sure that you know that this is really the best thing that you are going to be able to do is to make sure you're diffusing it. Don't say those antagonizing words. People that were already upset are going to even be more upset, and it's going to make it even more difficult to diffuse a difficult situation if everybody's upset, including yourself. So make sure you don't do that particular thing. Now, my next tip for you is that if you've already collected your data, you've set the tone that we're going to have a good discussion, a positive discussion about whatever the difficult situation is to listen. Now, listening is one of the most important things that you can do when you have a difficult situation. For example, when you have a difficult situation, it's going to be one or two scenarios. That's it, ladies. It's either going to be you and somebody else one-on-one, or it's going to be a scenario where it's going to be 1 to 2 plus. 2 plus meaning you may have two people you're talking to, or you may have a group of people you're talking to, or a lot of people you're talking to. Those are the scenarios. So the things that you want to do when you're listening is to listen with your ears, if you have the ability to hear, to see what's going on. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about is to observe what is going on. So you want to know what's being said and what is not being said. And I will tell you, as a insight from my 20 years of experience as a C-suite and a manager and a director, what is not being said is actually a lot of times more important than what is being said. So I have a masterclass that talks about executive communication. I'll link it in the description below that talks a bit more about how to do that. But then I also have a video here on YouTube that talks more about body language so that you can start to read people and see what is going on with them. What are they trying to tell you that they don't want to actually say? Now, I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios that come up when you're at a point when you are listening to somebody and this is a difficult situation. These things I'm going to share with you are things that people just don't teach you when you are developing yourself as a leader or as a professional woman or as an established executive. People are not teaching this. So be mindful of these things that come up. I have noticed that when people, and there's a difficult conversation, if they are uncomfortable, excuse me, with what's being said, the first things I see change are their facial expression. They will have a look on their face that shows either frustration or disgust. So they may look just like questioned or puzzled, or they may be like look mad, or they may just frown and look mad. That's one thing that will change when you see that this conversation or this situation is difficult and you need to be able to diffuse it. Another thing that I see a lot of people do is they adjust their posture. Now, if they're standing up, I've seen people just go from side to side. If they are sitting down, I see people sit up. And that is a sign that someone is uncomfortable with what's going on, excuse me, in this conversation. Excuse me, ladies, but someone is uncomfortable about what's going on in this particular situation. Now, I mentioned these cues because these are cues for you, as the exceptional woman that you are, to pick up on. And so when you see people do those things, you want to acknowledge it in your mind. You don't necessarily need to say it verbally. You can talk to that person while you're having this conversation in this situation and say, Mrs. Jones, I'm noticing that you have some concerns about that. Can you tell me a bit more about what you're thinking? And that's a great way to at least hopefully allow them to be able to say what they need to say, what they're concerned about saying, and help you to figure out what's the best way for you to diffuse this difficult situation. Now, there's one other thing that I noticed as an observation that tends to change when those difficult situations come up, and that's people's hands. After they've adjusted their posture, either moving side to side if they're standing up, or sometimes they'll sit up, their hands will tell you to. Our hands are a way for us to communicate in our minds. And one of the things that I learned in my journey to become a public speaker was to control my body gestures. And so oftentimes people are not trained to do that, and they will speak with their hands. And so their hands will also tell you what is going on in their head too. And that an example of that would be, I've seen people rub their fingers together. I've seen people clench their fists. I've seen people grab a chair. I've seen people scratch their head. I've seen people do a lot of things with their hands. And so there's a lot of cues that you can pick up on as a leader to diffuse a situation. You can see where this person's head is at and be able to respond in a way that is very positive and helpful to help diffuse the situation so that it doesn't escalate to be anything worse or anything more challenging than what it already is. Now, another thing that will help you to diffuse a situation, a difficult situation, is to put yourself in a place as an objective moderator. An objective moderator is somebody who is going to just be objective and listen and see exactly what the problem is, what's going on, and be that neutral third party. One of the things I teach my clients to do when they have these situations come up, and it's a great way for you to communicate yourself as an executive, is to say, how can I help you? If you go in with the mindset when you have a difficult situation that comes up of how can I help resolve this situation? How can I help these two individuals who might be upset with each other work together as best as they can? How can I help this particular challenge to not ever happen again? Having that mindset, I found, has been very helpful when you're trying to diffuse a difficult situation, because difficult situations by nature, they're difficult. And so they may be a bit more negative than what you would like for them to be. So if you, as the moderator, are there being that very positive, optimistic person, that is going to create an environment that will allow this difficult situation to be diffused and not be as negative or contentious as it could have been. Now, my final thing for you is to have a positive thought, a compliment, or to add humor. And I say add humor with caution, because if you're not careful with what you say, your adding humor could make things worse. So I would say to diffuse a situation is difficult. Focus on adding some positive thought or some positive type of compliment. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of things to say. Throughout your conversation with this difficult situation, one of the things you can mention, if you're doing it one-on-one or with other people, just appreciate them, because a lot of times difficult conversations can just have a lot of emotions attached to it. And you, being the executive, have to control your emotions and not let it get to you. And so you might want to say, thank you so much for talking to me about this particular issue, or I appreciate you taking time to share your insights. Thank you so much for being open and honest in this discussion. Have something that is complimentary, because that, as I mentioned, is going to make a negative situation more positive. And if you're working with teammates or coworkers or another associate, if you want to compliment them on a specific task that they did or something that they're really good at, this is a great opportunity to do so. So if someone is great at managing big tasks or handling pressure or making quick decisions, then just compliment them for that. Say that during your conversation because all of these tips will help to diffuse a difficult situation. The key for these difficult situations to diffuse them is to make them as positive as you can from your perspective. Even if it's negative and bad, there's always some good in something. So having that mindset will help you as a professional woman to diffuse those difficult situations. Now, I hope this information has been helpful to you. I know, ladies, we're not taught these things when we're developing ourselves as professional women. So I hope this is helpful. If you want to get some additional help with this, let's work together. Sign up for a strategy session. We'll chat, come up with how we can help you be able to manage those difficult situations when they come up. And feel free to share this information. There's a lot of things that we are not taught as professional women. So if you like this content, please hit the like button. It allows it to get to more professional women just like yourself. So like the video, subscribe if you want to learn a lot more. And I want to know from you, what are some difficult situations that you've had to diffuse? Like, how did it work out? What are some questions that you have, or what are some things that worked really, really well so that we could all learn from each other? And what are some things that maybe didn't work as well that you might want some help with that I'd be happy to help you with? So when you have a moment, feel free to make some comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.